Hey YouTube, Joeboy here. So chapter 855 of One Piece has dropped. So if you haven't checked out that chapter yet, I suggest that you do so because I will be spoiling you. But now that you have, let's begin. Hey, my boy Brook came in the clutch, man, and he played it off like it was no big deal. Brook is able to steal something that other Yonko aren't able to do, and what is the reward that the almighty Brook requests? Can I see your panties? Perhaps this was too much to ask for. Anyway guys, all jokes aside, Brook was actually able to steal the copy of the Road Poneglyph, but not only the Road Poneglyph, he was actually able to steal the copies of the other two Poneglyphs as well that was in Big Mom's Poneglyph room. And as the majority of the community speculated, myself included, he was actually able to stash these copies inside of his own skull. I would be more excited about this if it weren't so common of a speculation. But hey, we got it right. We don't get it right often, and when we do, we should be happy about it. But going back to the Poneglyph copies that Brook was able to steal, I think it's very important to note that Oda did not leave out those other quote-unquote fodder Poneglyphs for Brook to steal as well. While it seems most important for them to obtain the Road Poneglyph, I believe that the fact that Big Mom actually possessed these copies of the Poneglyphs suggests that these are Poneglyphs whose copies are not floating around, are not easily obtainable Poneglyphs to actually get. And I believe that all the Yonko, or at least Kaido, will also have unique Poneglyphs that only he has been able to find and the others have not. And so with this being the case, then it becomes important that the Straw Hats will be the first ones to actually read them all. Or at least the first ones since Gold D. Roger read them in the past. But I want to bring up something that I've said also, which is that Jinbei's Poneglyph in particular, the one that he found, I do not believe, logically speaking, it was likely for Roger to have found that particular Poneglyph. It was located deep underneath the ocean, random chance brought it to the surface and allowed Jinbei to find it. And so with this being the case, the Strats could potentially end up reading more Poneglyphs than even Roger himself was able to find. And this could very well be very important. But going back to Brook for a moment and my speculations on him, recently I did a video talking about why exactly Brook was limp and why he wasn't speaking. And so as of this chapter, that particular speculation holds no ground because the Straw Hats were actually able to save Brook. So Brook didn't need to leave his body and then meet up with the Strats. They actually found his actual body. But it is nice to know that what I observed was actually a clue, and while my particular ideas were wrong, it does help us explain what's going to happen next. And so what exactly am I talking about? Well, Oda decided to draw Brook in the last couple chapters as being limp, and he wasn't saying a word, and so because this was out of the norm, I believed that it was important, and as of this last chapter, it becomes very clear why it's important. And that's because they switched out Brook's body with a fake body, or fake bones. And so with Brook having not spoken or moved for the past several hours, then Big Mom should not be able to tell the difference between fake Brook and real Brook. And thus Brook, just like every other Straw Hat, is believed to be captured and or killed, and yet is free to move. However, Oda doesn't really explain why Brook decided not to speak or to move. But given what we know in the story right now, it's very obvious that the reason that this was the case is because Brook was just that exhausted after fighting a Yonko, fighting Big Mom. I am a little bit disappointed though that this wasn't actually the result of some kind of plan, but rather just pure 100% coincidence and luck. But moving past all this broken Poneglyph stuff, this chapter was so good. I really enjoyed it. God, the comedy scenes in this chapter were on point. The attempt to try and retrieve Brook with the 3 stages was absolutely fantastic. Big Mom straight up pulled a Whitebeard. Obviously it's a little bit different than Whitebeard, but at the same time both her and Whitebeard both are equally lethal when they are awake or when they are asleep. And if you take anything away from this chapter, anything at all, I believe the most important thing to learn is that Big Mom is not a huge fan of flies. Like for real guys, the fly overkill with Big Mom is real. But anyway guys, moving to something that is actually incredibly interesting, we got to learn a little bit more about Bobbin in this chapter, and we'll first start off with Bobbin's bounty. Now, I'm gonna be real, I read the spoilers, and in the spoilers, it stated that his bounty was 105.5 million, and then in this chapter, translated by Manga Stream, it's actually 155 million. But regardless, Bobbin is on that fodder tier. Like, we all got the impression that Bobbin was in some way really important, and as for his role in the story, it seems it's actually going to play its part here very soon. But I wouldn't be surprised if Bobbin was fodderized, if his bounty means anything. Now, I understand that bounty does not straight up equal strength, but at the same time, you can gauge sort of the destructive capability of someone by their bounty in very general terms. Like, if someone has a billion bounty, then you can pretty much guarantee that they're going to be stronger than somebody who has a 100 million berry bounty. And so, Bobbin's bounty, yeah. And so, guys, in my particular opinion, I do not think that Bobbin is going to be around to pose any threat for very long. I think the tea party is actually going to be happening here within the start of the end of next chapter, or the chapter after that. Of course, it doesn't have to be the case, I'm just speculating. But I can't see this Bobbin fight being like the Cracker fight and lasting for 3 chapters. One shot? That's probably what a lot of people are going to be thinking, but let me pose a counter scenario, which is that Sanji has just found Luffy, and I imagine their scene is going to be happening before Bobbin ends up catching up with Sanji. So what if Sanji actually feeds Luffy, and Bobbin, using his mysterious powers, which he's shown off a little bit in this last chapter, will actually be able to beat Sanji? His powers are really interesting. It seems like he's a human metronome, or perhaps metronome isn't the right word. Basically, he can hypnotize people just with the bobbing of his head, which may be a double fruit ability, may not, I have no idea. But regardless, he could potentially put Sanji to sleep in order to take Sanji back into the castle, in order to force him to participate in the marriage, which Sanji may be wanting to do regardless. And that will be the end of that. But I do want to say that hypnotism is nothing to be fucked with. Like, for real, that could be potentially really overpowered if you don't have a way of snapping out of it, which could give Bobbin, in a sense, some one-shot capability. And so, if this idea actually does end up happening, I would imagine that Bobbin would be unaware that Luffy was just fed, or that Luffy was there. Basically, Sanji would distract Bobbin from Luffy's presence, or Luffy would in some way hide, or something along those lines. I really don't expect the Straw Hats to be found out before the actual tea party, so that would suggest to me that all the Straw Hat members, including Luffy, will continue to go under the radar until then. And also, guys, I almost forgot, but I want to throw it in at the end of the video. The fucking hat can actually turn into a fucking sword. Like, well. Anyway, guys, there wasn't really a lot to talk about in this chapter. We're moving along. We're getting closer and closer to the tea party. It's becoming I can feel it. I can feel the tea party on the horizon, and I can't wait to get there to find out what exactly happens. But anyway, guys, let me know what you thought about this chapter. Let me know if you found something or noticed something that I haven't noticed or haven't talked about. Just share your thoughts. Like the video if you liked the video. Dislike the video if you disliked the video. Subscribe if you want to be notified for my future videos. And as always, guys, have a wonderful day.